Hey guys, Alan Watson here from Golf Plus in Dothan. We're at the beautiful Highland Oaks Golf Course, Robert Trent Jones Trail here in Dothan, Alabama. And today we're going to talk about wedges. So I've brought a bunch of samples with us, and we're going to hit some shots from around the green. We're going to go over to our bunker area. We're going to hit some shots there too. We're going to talk about bounce and grind and the sole and everything that you need to know about wedges. If you've ever wondered anything about wedges, well, guess what? Today is your day. You can see maybe just how different some of these soles are. So for instance, on this PXG, this is kind of a full sole wedge, maybe just a little bit of trailing edge relief, but it's a relatively full sole, and that's got quite a bit of bounce, 14 degrees of bounce. This next wedge here, this Titleist, you can see this one has quite a bit of relief off of the heel, the toe, and the trailing edge as well. It's got only 8 degrees of bounce, kind of a mid bounce. And then when we move on to these two Adele wedges, now you're going to see another couple of different grinds. This one's kind of a half and half, completely back end grind off. This one here is more of a Phil Mickelson style with this wedge kind of cut, this dip in the middle. And when you get into that, now you're really starting to remove things. For instance, if I'm a guy who doesn't take a big divot, all right, I'm going to hit this shot here. I'm not going to take any divot at all, just kind of barely brush the grass. All right, so that type of shot is going to require a different sole and a different bounce and grind than the guy who takes a more full divot. So if I'm this guy, and now I've taken this huge divot, well, that's gonna be a different wedge than the first guy who's just hitting that little pinch chip. All right, guys, so now we're in a bunker. This sand's actually just a touch wet, which obviously you can't count on that going to a golf course. But if I know my local course and I know that the sand's usually pretty soft, then that's how I'm going to be setting up and thinking about it. So this is a 60-degree wedge with 8 degrees of bounce and quite a bit of relief all around. So I need to hit a high flop. I'm short-sided to the green, and so with this little bit amount of bounce, I really can't dig a lot of sand out. But because I've got the relief, I can actually open this thing up a little bit. So if you want to open that up, you're going to have a wedge that has a little more relief. You can't use that full sole high bounce option. So let's see what happens when we hit this wedge. I hit it just a little bit further than I wanted to. Actually got a better splash out than I anticipated. So even though there wasn't a ton of bounce on this wedge, still was able to move a lot of sand out of the way. You can see it's a huge crater here. Let's hit one more. This time I'm going to try to hit it a little bit more shallow and see what happens. I'm going to show you the more traditional way. This is a 56 with 14 degrees of bounce from PXG, barely any trailing edge relief, so pretty much a full sole wedge. I'm going to have to be real careful with this one because if I dig in a lot with this one and really make an explosion, this thing's going to carry a lot further than, say a 60 or something like that. So let's see what we got here. All right, so you can see that this divot, much deeper than the ones that we hit with the 60 that only had 8 degrees of bounce. So we're going to try that one again, but I should be able to come in a little steeper with this 14 degrees of bounce. Because I have a lot of bounce, should be able to come in really steep and really explode this ball out. So let's try that. Okay guys, so we just did the explosion with the 56-14, kind of came out low. This time we're going to use the bounce more the way it should be used. So we're going to bring it a much more steeper incline shot in like that and really explode this thing out with the 56. All right, that was much better. Created a ton of spin, and the ball stopped about 8 feet from the pin, so really happy with that. But it does take a deft touch and a different type of swing when you go to a full sole higher bounce wedge option than what we had before. Here, highest bounce really option that we sell in the shop and probably that you're going to be able to find on the market from Adele. Super high bounce, 60 degree. We're going to be able to hit a big explosion because this wedge is not going to dig in, unlike if I had a really shallow bounce. So here we go, big explosion. Oh man, that came out perfect. Literally stopped that about 1 foot and maybe 2 inches from the pin. So really hit that the way I wanted to. You can see I came in way behind the ball, displaced a ton of sand. I don't know if you can see this guys, but that divot is 1 inch wider on each side than the flange of the blade of the wedge. So what does that tell you? That thing really got in there and really moved some stuff out of the way. Okay, so let's talk about sole, bounce, loft, all that as it relates to a whole set of wedges. You go into a shop, you're going to replace your set, and so you see that all the wedges say mid or full on there, or maybe they say F grind or S grind, and you think to yourself, well, do I need to make sure that all my wedges have the same setup? And I'm going to tell you something that maybe you haven't heard before, or maybe you have, and that's that I think people should probably mix up their set a little bit. What I mean by that is that if you've got a full sole 60 degree and you like to hit lots of big splashes out of the bunker, that's great. But maybe the course you play out mows the grass around the edge of the green really tight. So maybe if you're going to be doing a lot of chipping with, say, a 50 or a 52, maybe that one needs to be your wedge that has lots of grind, lots of trailing edge relief, lots of heel and toe relief, so that you can do those shots where you open and close the club so that it doesn't hang up when we do the chip shots like we just did. So maybe you need to think about a 52 that's got a lot of grind and only a mid bounce. Maybe you need to think about a 56 that's more of a mid bounce and a little bit versatile. And then maybe your 60 needs to be that full sole that you're just going to use for explosions and big fairway shots and big bunker shots. Or maybe it's the other way around. Maybe your course mows down the grass really tight around the greens, and you like to use a 60 because maybe the greens are really fast. You want to create a lot of spin so the ball doesn't roll away from you. So then in that case, maybe you need mid to full bounce on your 60, but some versatility in regards to the grind so that you've got the versatility to hit the shots that you want to hit. And then maybe as you get over into your 52 and 56, maybe now you're going to use those mostly for fairway shots. Maybe now we're just using a full grind there. So the other option, seriously? The other option setup type would be maybe you want to chip with your 60, and so now you need more versatility, more grind, maybe only like a mid, maybe even a low bounce, depending on the type of shot that you play, if you're really shallow coming in and not super steep. And maybe now you're 52 and 56 or 50, 54, whatever. Maybe those are going to be more of your full shots out of the fairway. So now you need more full, less grind, more full sole, so that when you hit that full shot out of the fairway, the ball flies high, spins good, you get the distance that you deserve. Like I said before, if you've ever hit a shot that either hang up, feel like you hung it up and then it popped loose, or if you've ever hit a shot where you just slid the blade right under something and the ball barely went anywhere, those are two really good signs that you don't have the right bounce and sole grind on your wedge for the type of shots that you like to play. So if you experience some of those things lately, or maybe if your wedges are just starting to show a lot of wear and it's time for new wedges anyway, come see us, or if you're out of town, go see your local golf professional, talk to them about wedge options, bounce and sole grind. We've got so many great options in our shop at Golf Plus in Dothan from so many different manufacturers. You can come in and test them, see how they play. We'll set you up with the correct lie angle, length, grip. We'll make sure the wedges are actually going to do what you need.